Hi, I'm Eric Siegel, and welcome to episode 55 of Eric's Trains. Alright, it's the middle of November 2015, and this is my pre-open house episode. Every fall, I have an open house for the layout that is free and open to the public. It's part of the Piedmont Pilgrimage Tour of Atlanta area layouts. If you don't know about it yet, it's probably a little too late to start making plans to attend now, but I do it every fall, so check out the Piedmont Pilgrimage website for more info. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of work on the layout lately to try to get it as ready as possible for the open house. I love this time of year. Not only is it fall, which is my favorite season here in Georgia, but it's the time of year when I do the most work on the layout, and the motivation is always the open house. I'm trying to get as much done so that when repeat visitors come back this year, they see progress and see new stuff that wasn't here last year. And so for that reason, I've been very busy the last couple weeks trying to get all sorts of last minute work completed. I've got a brand new tower in the middle of the yard on the layout. That is the big news, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. And, you know, not only am I busy getting the layout ready, but my wife is getting ready for the open house as well, because she's upstairs getting all sorts of food and snacks and goodies ready for the guests when they arrive. So it should be a lot of fun. What I want to do now is take you around the layout real quick and show you all of the recent work that I've done since the last time I showed you the layout, which was in episode 50. So I've got a lot to show you. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've done quite a lot of work in the middle of the main table here in the main room. I recently did some road work, and I don't mean railroads, I mean streets. So I added this new road that wraps around back there and then continues on to the diesel shop area. Now, I stopped short of the diesel shop area because that area is still under construction, and so I didn't want to finish the road back there quite yet. But it's looking good so far. The grade crossings over here are done, and I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. There are 4 crossings, and really the only thing I need to do now is add the crossing signal equipment. Now, originally I was going to use crossing signals from Z-Stuff, but it's kind of hard to find Z-Stuff crossing signals these days. He really hasn't been selling them for a while. They've been on back order forever. And I don't want to use Lionel or MTH crossing signals because they look nice, but they have these big ugly bases on them, and I don't want that. So I think I'm going to use some crossing signals that are made by Tomar Industries, because all you have above the table is the signal, and then the mechanism for moving the gate and everything is located below the table using a tortoise switch. So they look really nice, and so that's what I think I'm going to go with. They're pretty expensive, but I think ultimately it'll be worth it. So I'm going to put a crossing gate and a flasher here, and then another crossing gate and flasher here, and then I'll just put a set of flashers on this crossing. I don't think I'll be able to install the crossing signals in time for the open house because I just don't have time, but hopefully I'll get them installed later this year or early next year. They're going to look really cool once they're in place. Now, I have not decided yet whether or not I want to have sound along with the signals, because that ding 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 sound is kind of neat the first few times you hear it, but after a while it can get a little annoying, and so I really haven't made up my mind yet as to whether or not I want sound. I will probably go with it in the end. I'm just sort of on the fence right now. Now, ever since I posted pictures of this new road on my Facebook page, I've had a lot of people asking me how I make these roads, how I make this asphalt material. I talked about it briefly in a previous episode, but I never showed the entire process from start to finish. Now, the material itself is very simple. It's a mixture of Elmer's white glue and Woodland Scenics fine cinders. That's all it is. You mix it up and then you spread it on just like you're paving a road. And I've been very, very happy with it. You know, there are a million different ways you can do roads on a layout, and this is the method that I chose, and I'm actually kind of proud of it because it's one of the few ideas on my layout that was 100% my own. I'm not saying that nobody else has ever done this before, but I didn't get the idea from anybody else. I actually thought of it independently. I like the way it looks because it feels kind of like asphalt, it looks like asphalt, and it even has that little lip on the side like a freshly paved road has. And you can even patch it up and have patches of asphalt like a real road has. So I'm very happy with it. Now, I chose to also put the asphalt in between the rails here. A lot of people put wood strips, and I will probably do that on some of my grade crossings, but here I just did asphalt between the rails. But anyway, because I've never shown the entire process from start to finish, the next tutorial video that I do will be on how to do these roads, so keep an eye out for that in the near future. Anyway, moving back, you'll notice these big ugly seams on the road here. There's one here and there's one over here, and that's because this area is a removable pop-up hatch that gets me access to the middle of the layout, and so these seams are ugly, but they're necessary, and I'm just going to try to hide them as best as I can. I'm not completely happy with the way it looks yet. I will probably end up putting a plate over this part of the road and that part of the road to better hide the seam, but it's looking okay right now. I want to show you something else before we get to the tower, which is the big news. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I want to show you this new plant life that's in between the rails and on the edge of the table. If you look down the edge, there is now wildflower growth all the way down to the end and all the way down here as well. And I've also got some growth between the rails. I'm not completely sold on this yet. I'm still working on the stuff between the rails. It looks very nice, but I want to make it look a little more overgrown with some tall grasses and so forth. But it's getting there. I'm liking it more and more every day as I work on it more and more. Now, these ditch weeds, as they're called, and these wildflowers along the edge, they're made by the same person. It's called Bill Langford Studios, but I buy these through Scenic Express. So you can find these products on the Scenic Express website. All right, now let's talk about the tower, which is the newest addition to the layout. It is brand spanking new. I just got it about 2 days ago, and that's why, as you can see, the installation into the layout is not yet fully complete. The tower is a custom-built, scratch-built structure that was made for me by Stu Graunik of Model Building Services, and as you can see, he did an incredible job. This tower is based on the CSX control tower at the Queensgate Yard in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, I don't have any special connection to that yard. I knew that I wanted a modern-looking control tower in the yard here, and so for that reason, I knew that I couldn't buy a control tower off the shelf because most control towers that you buy off the shelf are older steam-era towers, and I wanted something modern. So what I did is I went on Google and did an image search for control towers, and I found an image of this one. It was not a very good image. It was from the side. You couldn't see very much detail, but you could get the general idea. And so I contacted Stu and I sent him the image and I said, "Can you build this for me?" And he said, "Sure." And then what Stu did is he went onto Google Earth and went to the satellite view, and that way he was able to get the measurements of the building to figure out what dimensions it needed to be. Now, the actual tower in the Queensgate Yard is a little bit bigger than this. It's probably about 30% bigger. We had to scale it down a bit to make it fit in the space, but it's a pretty good replica of the tower in the Queensgate Yard. Now, Stu went the extra mile in getting the attention to detail right. Like I said, the initial image that I sent him was not very good, so what he did was he contacted the photographer who took that image and he asked him if he had any other images of the tower, and the guy replied and said, "Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them." And so he sent those to Stu, and they were great images of the tower from every angle, and so Stu was able to get a view of every side of the tower and get everything exactly right. And again, as you can see, it looks fantastic. And it looks even better when you turn on the lights. So let me back up here and turn the lights on real quick. Now, I'm not going to have the room lights dimmed, but you'll be able to get the idea. So you can see there's a blue light in the tower, there's some additional lights down in the offices, and then there are lights above all the doors. So there's 2 doors that you can see there. There's one on the back side that you can't see, and then there's one on that side door next to the observation booth on the tower. So he did a fantastic job. I can't say enough good things about it. Now, like I said, the installation into the layout is not complete. The building is complete, but I haven't finished the scenery around it. Basically, all I had time to do so far is pave a little parking lot and stick the building in the parking lot. What I need to do now is to dam up the base of the building to give it a foundation, and then I need to finish the parking lot. That includes expanding the parking lot over into this grassy area. Then I'll stripe the parking lot for parking spaces, add some cars, add some trees, add some people, and then it should look pretty good at that point. But yeah, this thing is just outstanding. I mean, he even put the little air conditioning units there. And he was able to get that because he got the extra images from the photographer and saw the AC units on one side, and so he made me some AC units. So again, it's fantastic. Now, it's not cheap. You're not going to get something like this for $99. If you want something nice on your layout, you're going to have to pay for it. And so I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this, but suffice to say, you could either get a really nice engine or get this building. But it was worth every penny, in my opinion, because, you know, if you're going to spend a lot of money on the trains and the track and the bridges and so forth, you really need to invest in the buildings and make them be up to the same quality and attention to detail as your engines and the rest of your trains. And this building certainly is. It just looks fantastic. Now, the reason why I had Stu build this tower for me instead of doing it myself is because, quite frankly, I don't have the time or skills necessary to do it myself. You know, when you have a large layout that requires many, many structures, you have to get help, because otherwise it'll take 10 or 15 years to build every structure yourself. And you know, when you're doing a modern themed layout like I'm doing, you can't just buy everything off the shelf. You have to build some of it from scratch. And so that's why I had Stu build this for me. And this is the first of many structures that he's going to do for me. There's going to be more buildings in the yard eventually and all around the layout. That is the one big thing that's missing on the layout right now, is finished structures. You know, I've got a few over there, but generally the layout's pretty barren in terms of structures, and so I'm going to have Stu and some other people start helping me fill the layout with structures. So there's the tower. The next project Stu's going to do for me will be some flats over in that corner. I'll talk about that later. And then we'll move on from there. There's a factory that I need over in one corner of this room. There's a brewery that I need in the Colorado room. So there's a whole lot of building that I need done. And like I said, I just don't have the time or skills to do it myself. Anyway, if you'd like to keep updated on the progress of the area around the tower here, and really the layout in general, check out my Facebook page, because I post progress photos on my Facebook page all the time. So moving on, I've added something new to the creek here. There's a drainage pipe, and I'm working on adding some water flowing from the pipe to the creek. That should be done in time for the open house. I've also added some bushes and trees to the main table on both ends of the bridge. So over here I've got all this stuff that's new, and then it's the same story on the other side. So right here. Now these trees, these are the same kind that I have back there and elsewhere around the layout. And these are some new trees that I tried out. They're both made by the same company. It's a German company called Heki, or Heki, H-E-K-I. I'm probably mispronouncing it, so I'm sorry, but I'm not German. Anyway, so I've added these. I bought these at Scenic Express, and I also bought these at Scenic Express, and I've added more of these. These are little briar patches. They cost $9 a piece. They're a little pricey, but most things at Scenic Express are pricey. But they look nice. And I've added a whole bunch of them down here, and I'm going to buy some more. I've actually ordered them. And when they arrive, I'm going to put them under the bridge so that there's a briar patch under and around the end of the bridge here. So it should look pretty nice. I've also added some new lights to the main table. I added these 4 tower lights that are made by MTH. They're Rail King yard lights. And they're all metal construction, so they're very nicely made. A 2-pack costs around $70 or so, and I added 4. I will probably add at least another 4 before I'm done. And then I also added some Lionel yard lights to the yard over here, in addition to what I already had. I've also done some work in this corner of the main room. I'm starting to do some road work. I've paved some of the roads here, especially around the station. And I've actually hooked up the station as well as this street light in the parking lot of the station. So if I turn it on, there it is. It's looking pretty good. And then over here I've got some construction stuff to let people know that this is under construction. I've also added some additional oak railing to the layout. I've had the oak railing on the main table and some of the other parts of the layout for quite a while, but this here is brand new, as well as this railing over here. And then up here I added some new shrubbery. Looks pretty good. I added some yellow wildflowers down here and up by the railing by the door factory. I added this first, and then I had some left over, so it went down here. Over on this side, this is all brand new. I used to have an open storage area here that was really ugly, and so I covered it up with this paneling, so now it doesn't look so ugly. I still have the storage behind it, but you've got this nice panel in front, and that required adding some additional rock scenery here and adding a railing up here. And by adding this railing, I've actually gained about an inch of scenery here. It's not much, but it's something. And then back here, the big news is that I added an additional siding to the door factory. This is the original siding, and this is the new siding. And if we swing around this way, there's the Trackmobile, and he's there to move the cars back and forth as needed. Now, the switch and the track for the siding are both made by Ross. I picked them up at the York Train Show, and the switch is wired up to this controller down here, so I can control the switch using these buttons right here. Up next, let's check out the new stuff in the hallway room. I added a couple new trees here, and then this railing here is brand new. I just put it in not too long ago, and that wraps around this entire table here like that. Looks nice. And just like with the railing next to the door factory, I had to bring the layout out a bit to meet the rail, and so I actually gained about an inch of scenery here. So the table comes out just a little bit further than it used to. It's not much, but again, it's something. And then on the other side of the room here, I've built 2 additional display cases. And I've ordered the plexiglass that's going to go on the front of these things. And that plexiglass should be ready just in time for the open house. So when the open house arrives, these trains will be protected from small hands. I've also made a little bit of progress here in the Colorado room. I finished the railing around the tables, so it looks pretty sharp now. The railing drops down right here, and that's to allow these inserts to come out so that I can get access to the inside of the mountains. But it looks pretty good. The road now comes out a little bit further to meet the railing. I finished this grade crossing. I still need to finish this one. I've got a whole bunch of trees and stuff here because I'm adding trees to the layout right now. So this is my tree station. I completed the ballasting of the track up by the station and added a couple new trees. Probably the biggest news in here is that I finished this tunnel portal finally, and it looks really good, I think. Now, I've ordered a scenic backdrop from Scenic Express. That's a factory backdrop. That's going to go right here, and it's going to complement the Coors Brewery that'll be here eventually. And then finally, I added some LED rope lighting to the underside of the layout in this room so that I can see all the storage down here now. And there's a lot of stuff in here. This is the music corner right here, where all my musical instruments are. And for you guitarists, that's a Vox AC30 that I've had since I was 15. That is an awesome amp. But yeah, lots of stuff down here. The room with the least amount of change is the Carolina room, and of course that's because this table is not yet ready for all the scenery. I have done a little bit of work here. I've added a couple trees, and I also did some more work on the waterfall area, which I had been putting off for a while. I finished the stream bed, so it's looking pretty good. The next thing I need to do is to repaint the bottom of the lake and then I'll start adding water. And that's going to be a bit of a challenge because I've done water like the water in the lake before, but I've never done a waterfall before. And so that's going to be a learning experience. And right now I'm experimenting with different methods of doing waterfalls. And once I find a method that I like, I'll start working on the waterfall. And hopefully I'll get the lake and the waterfall finished maybe early next year. The rest of the room hasn't seen much progress since I last showed it to you in episode 50. It's pretty much the same. Now, as I talked about in episode 50, I'm thinking about taking this siding and expanding it over into this corner here so that I can have an industry here in the corner. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then something else I've been thinking about is putting a switch right here and having the track go into that mountain there. That would take it into the back room where the furnace and the water heater are located. And then it would circle around and rejoin the track over here. And I'd have to install another switch right here. And what that would do is it would create an independent loop in the two back rooms here, the Colorado and the Carolina rooms. And that way I could actually run 5 trains on the way out instead of the 4 trains that I can run right now. You know, I dragged my feet a little bit on finishing this episode because I've been so busy working on the way out. And so in that time, the plexiglass for these display cases came in, and I went ahead and installed it last night. So now I've got some nice plexiglass doors on these cases. Pretty nice. Alright, so that's all the recent progress on the layout, but keep in mind that work is not complete. I'm going to keep on working on things right up until the last minute before the open house. And in fact, while I've been filming this video, I've continued to do work. So for example, the scenery around the tower that you just saw is actually a little more complete right now than it was a couple days ago when I filmed that segment. And it's the same story for the rest of the layout. So if you're coming to the open house, you'll probably see some stuff when you get here that wasn't in this video. But I'm really excited about the open house. I can't wait. Now, one thing that I haven't done is I haven't figured out which trains I'm going to run. As crazy as that sounds, I have no idea what I'm going to run. So hopefully tonight or tomorrow night I'll figure that out, and then I'll be able to put those trains together for the open house. But I hope to see you there, and if you can't make it, come next year because like I said, I have them every year. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time.